Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the vertical slant and its meaning. In general, slant reveals the degree of our emotional responsiveness. Rightward slant shows the degree of reactivity. Of course, a stronger rightward slant is more reactive than a mild rightward slant. Vertical slant shows people are reserved and more cautious, whereas a backward slant is self-protective, keeping their distance from others. Here are two females in their mid-20s, roughly, writing with a vertical slant. They tend to be reserved, cautious. They think before they speak. And even in stress, vertical slanters tend to stay calm, at least outwardly. A vertical slant with a mid-zone emphasis. A mid-zone emphasis means they live in the moment. They need recognition to be accepted for who they are, and typically they are emotionally uncomplicated. A mid-zone emphasis shows that, for instance, the letter D in Monday has a very short stem, and the Y has a shorter lower zone structure. So a vertical slant plus a mid-zone emphasis, they're not only reserved and cautious, but they also live in the here and now. They have social inclinations. They're more concerned with the now, daily routines, their needs, their immediate needs. And because they focus on their immediate needs, they may be impatient. You also have a reduced concern of the consequences of their needs and wants and actions. Mind you, many teenagers write with a vertical slant and a mid-zone emphasis, and that is because they're, well, emotionally immature. That is normal. In Casey Anthony's case, we see that the word spacing is short spacing, and that means she has a fast thought flow. And people with short spacing may become intrusive into the lives of others. You can see that the letter spacing is really uptight. If you look at Monday, for instance, you see that the O and N are connected to each other. That means being uptight and closed off. Now, when you look at the K buckle, you see that it ends up to the left of the stem. And that suggests pulling further back than necessary, and therefore implies caution. Retracing is seen in the N. Retracing is when a downstroke, the initial stem of the N, is retraced with an upstroke. And typically that means repression of unresolved emotional issues. So we can see in Casey Anthony's handwriting, especially here in the police narrative she wrote, being cautious, I think before I speak, and emotionally immature. In the same sample, we see that the personal pronoun I is on an island. And an island is when a word, or in this case, the personal pronoun I, has wider spacing around it. And therefore, personal pronoun I represents yourself. And that suggests that Casey Anthony protects herself, keeps others at a distance. These two letters drop below the baseline. And that means poor urge control, subconscious subverted actions. So this type of writing in age mid-20s is immaturity, and that is normal. That is to be expected. But when you're physically mature, like this male in his 40s, and you're still emotionally immature and emotionally stunted, that is not healthy. Notice that both these individuals connect letters to each other. We also see the very short D stem. The letter D is an important letter as it represents our personal value system. Short D stems mean they do not consider other people's opinions. Both these authors are known to be deceptive. By the way, this handwriting sample is Richard Allen Davis, who abducted and murdered Polly Klaas. He was also the impetus for the 3 strikes you're out law during the Clinton administration. This is the writing of George Anthony. He was a former detective, and it seems he suspected Casey from the get-go. This is his police narrative. We can see in his police narrative that he addressed every individual of the family with a relationship status. My spouse, Cindy, my son, Lee, his mom, my spouse, our granddaughter, my spouse. But Casey is just Casey. She did not receive the relationship status. And subconsciously, he distanced himself from her. Casey Anthony signed the police narrative, and that's on the left top. You can see that her initials are encircled, which is a self-protection stroke. We also see in the signature on the left top that the last name Anthony is distorted and also encircled, self-protective. After a few weeks in jail, Casey Anthony dropped the last name altogether and distanced herself from the family. You remember her defense attorney accused George Anthony of incest with Casey. The dropping of the last name is consistent with the PPI, the personal pronoun I, being on an island, distancing from others. I leave it at this. Like my video, share and subscribe.